Hey, welcome. Today we're going to talk about something that totally changed the game for business in India, what some people are calling a bankruptcy revolution. It's called the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, or IBC. And look, this isn't just about boring rules. It's really a story about how you go from complete financial chaos to a clear, straightforward plan, and in the process, rewrite the entire playbook for what happens when a business gets into trouble. So let's jump right in.
First, let's just start with a really basic question, one that anyone who's ever tried to build something has probably thought about. What happens when a good business, a company with a great idea and real potential just hits a rough patch? What's the plan? Is there a way to turn things around?
Well, for decades in India, right up until 2016, the answer to that question was not great. There wasn't a clear plan. There really wasn't a safety net. The reality for most was just, chaos. A messy, tangled-up system that honestly ended up destroying value for pretty much everyone involved. Now, to really get why this new code is so revolutionary, you have to understand what it replaced. So let's take a step back and walk through what was basically a debt maze for anyone trying to navigate it before 2016. The best way I can describe it is like this. Imagine a business is struggling, and instead of getting a lifeline, it gets thrown into a dense legal jungle. There are all these different laws and paths, but no single map, no clear signs, and absolutely no guarantee you'd ever find your way out. And this was the so-called map for that jungle. You see, there wasn't one single law for insolvency. Instead, you had this alphabet soup of different acts, and the worst part? They would often contradict each other, which just created a total legal nightmare for business owners and for the banks trying to get their money back. So what did all that confusion actually lead to? Well, a long road to pretty much nowhere. A business would hit a wall, the lawyers would get involved, and then nothing. Years would go by. And while the case was just sitting there, stuck in that legal maze, the actual business itself, its machines, its brand, its employees was just wasting away, its value disappearing into thin air. And that's not me being dramatic. Official reports used this exact phrase, saying the old system resulted in almost complete erosion of asset value. It's pretty devastating. It means that by the time a case was finally sorted out, there was usually nothing left to save. The business was just gone. But then, everything changed. Faced with this completely broken system, India hit the reset button. And I mean a radical reset. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of 2016. So, what is it exactly? Well, the IBC is one single unified law. The whole idea was to replace that entire legal jungle with a clear, paved road. It's this major economic reform designed to create one predictable process, and crucially, a process with a ticking clock.
Okay, so a single new law sounds good in theory, but what does it actually do that's so different? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of this new rulebook, because this is where you really see the revolution happen.
At its absolute core, the new code comes down to one simple but incredibly powerful idea, a fundamental shift in who's in charge when a company can't pay its debts. And the difference is just night and day. See, in the old system, the original owners often stayed in control, even after they'd stopped paying their bills. The IBC completely flips that script. Now control shifts to the creditors, the banks and lenders who are owed money. The goal changes too. It's not about slowly selling everything off anymore. The priority is now to rescue the business first. And that timeline that used to drag on for years, it's been replaced by a strict clock, measured in days. So what you get is a clear, logical path forward. A default happens and boom, the creditors take the wheel. Their main job is to try and put together a resolution plan, a rescue plan, to save the business. And only if that rescue attempt doesn't work out does the process move to the final option, liquidation. It's like an orderly staircase, instead of that tangled jungle we talked about. So, a better process for struggling companies, that's great. But why is this seen as such a huge deal for the entire economy? Well, because the effects of this change create a ripple effect that touches everything. If you look at the official goals of the code, it really tells you the whole story. It's not just about cleaning up messes. It's about maximizing the value of what's left. By creating a fair process, it actually encourages entrepreneurship. It makes people more willing to take a calculated risk. And maybe the biggest one of all, it's meant to increase the availability of credit because lenders finally feel more secure. And that right there is the secret sauce, predictability. When banks and investors know there's a clear, efficient, and fast process for what happens if things go sideways, they see lending money as way less risky. And that confidence,
That's the fuel for economic growth.
So ultimately, all these different pieces, the speed, the clarity, that big shift in control, they all feed into one massive national goal: improving the ease of doing business in India. It sends a powerful signal to the rest of the world that India is a mature, predictable, and solid place to invest and to build.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought to end on. You know, we tend to think of success and failure as complete opposites, but the story of India's IBCs suggests something way more interesting. It kind of asks the question, could having a clear, robust, and fair plan for failure actually be one of the secret ingredients for building an ecosystem of long-term success? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.